In the last part, we have seen how the preparations are being done to organize literary people, writers, poets. Writers and poets, they are the unacknowledged legislators of society. This is one of the famous quotation. Unacknowledged legislators of the society. శాసనకర్తలు, సమాజానికి రాయని శాసనకర్తలు, అంటే వీళ్ళను పేర్కొనని శాసనకర్తలు. దట్ ఈస్ అన్అక్నాలెడ్జ్డ్ legislators of society. Means they decide, they express the rules of the society. Very, very beautiful quotation. So organizing such poets, organizing people, cultural artists is very important here. So after this Telangana preparatory meeting, we are going to talk about how the new forms of literature, new books, new poetry, essays and different forms are coming for Telangana. And before that, let's talk about one important organization which started in 1986 itself. In 1986, in Medak district, Manjira Rachayitala Sangam was found. Erstwhile Medak district. Manjira, the river which flows through the Medak district in the erstwhile period, that is Manjira Rachayitala Sangam, was formed in 1986 and its founder president Nandini Siddhareddy. Nandini Siddhareddy was forming this Manjira Rachayitala Sangam in a times where there was severe police repression, severe repression on the revolutionary movement, severe repression on the democratic movements. When Naxalite movement was at its peak, Viplava Rachayitala Sangam or revolutionary writers movement cannot address all the issues everywhere. And at that place, many organizations like Manjira Rachayitala Sangam could fill that gap to talk about democracy, to talk about society. And Manjira Rachayitala Sangam, headed or founded by Nandini Siddhareddy, has done human service to literature, to society, to democracy. They have brought out beautiful poetry, books, booklets. And recently, I think it's 2012 or so, they have organized the 25th year of Manjira Rachayitala Sangam in Hyderabad in a very grand way. So, they have published books, Edapayelu, a poetry book, Edapayelu. Then, Nandini Siddhareddy's works, that is Nadi Puttuvadi, Ikkadi Chetla Gali, all these books are published by, written by Nandini Siddhareddy, his poetry. When we talked about songs, Nagati Salalo Na Telangana, that is the song of Nandini Siddhareddy, which won Nandi Award. So, this is poetry. Poetry, his poetry expressed the anguish, the life, the society of Telangana. So, Manjira Rachayitala Sangam is not just a literary organization. It was part of the literary and socio-political movements too. Whenever there is a need, whenever there is a scope, Manjira Rachayitala Sangam went into the social activities too, like anti-caste movement. Intercaste marriages, they were in the forefront. Today, very badly, very tragically, we are talking about this intercaste marriages and this so-called Paruvatyalu. And in this background, we see in 86 they did, the poets did, that is intercaste marriages. This we could see. So, poetry is always advanced. In the society, there will be backward ideas, and poets or the cultural forms or cultural people will take the advanced ideas into society to transform it. That is why we have to understand the culture as a pioneer for the social reform too. So, they were part of socio-cultural movements. Many people who are very prominent cultural figures in the last phase of movement like Deshapati Srinivas, Rasamayi Balkishan, all these people were there who were active in this Manjira Rachayitala Sangam and who are active in Manjira Rachayitala Sangam till date. So, Manjira Rachayitala Sangam has infused some energy into the regions, especially South Telangana in this area, to instill democracy in the society, to bring poetry for the society and Telangana. So, in this background, there are many new works coming which is enriching the literature of Telangana. Like if we say the poetry anthologies, means collection of poetry like Mattadi. Mattadi is a poetry book edited by Ambati Surendra Raju and Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy. Ambati Surendra Raju, a senior journalist and a writer, film critic, literary critic, a homeopath doctor, and he has he continuously worked with all the Telangana new upcoming writers as a critique, and he has groomed them, some of them. Even today, some of the good names are big names in Telangana literature. The Telangana poets were groomed or regularly interacted and discussed with him. So, Pokkili, Julus, these are the books brought out by Juluri Gauri Shankar, collection of poetry of different people. Pokkili, Julus. You can see the title. Titles are clearly expressive of Telangana. Mattadi. Mattadi means the overflowing water. That is Mattadi. Edi mana tank lo. In the tank, village tank or any tank, the overflowing water is Mattadi. And Julus. Julus is Uregimpu. Means Julus, you know, that is a procession. And the other work, that is Juluri Gauri Shankar has written another book, his poetry, that is Mundlagarra. Mundlagarra means the one which is with the thorn, which is used to make the ox run, bullock run. That is Mundlagarra. So, Mundlagarra, Pokkili, Julus, these are all from Juluri Gauri Shankar, who is the member of BC Commission presently. And Nagodava. Nagodava, we have talked about Nagodava of Kaloji. And Nagodava was brought into one volume. There are different periods Kaloji was writing. All the poetry of Kaloji was brought into one book by the name Nagodava by Kaloji Foundation. Kaloji Foundation means the organization which was formed like Natyakala Press, Telangana Information Trust. The same people, same group of people are associated with Kaloji Foundation. So, Kaloji Foundation has brought out Nagodava of Kaloji during this period. Then Sky Baba. Sky Baba, a journalist and a person who is into minority poetry movement. Minority Kavitva Vadam. Minority Kavitvam, that is Sky Baba. Sheikh Yusuf Baba is becoming Sky Baba. And his book, Zakhmi Awaz. Zakhmi. Zakhmi means Gayapada, means wounded. Zakhmi Awaz. Gayapadda Gontuka. If you translate it into Telugu, the wounded voice. This is Zakhmi Awaz. And Mungili. Mungili is the work by Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy, who is writing the history of Telangana literature. Telangana Sahitya Charitra was brought into a book by Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy in the name of Mungili. And Telangana Charitra history is also written by Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy. These two books are the books which are coming as a research works. One is on literature, one is on history of Telangana. Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy. Then Singidi. Singidi means rainbow. Singidi is a pure Telugu form, Telugu word. Singidi means Indradhanusu. Singidi, Telangana Rachaitala Sangam, was organized by a few people to bring out poetry, organize or get into interacting with the literary activities. Singidi. Singidi is organized by a few people like Sanjishetti Srinivas, Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy, Pasunuri Ravinder, Yeshala Srinivas. All these people were actively associated with Singidi in the beginning, from the beginning. So, among them, Sanjishetti Srinivas is a researcher, we will be talking about him. Sunkireddy Narayan Reddy, just now we talked about his Mungili and Telangana Charitra. And Pasunuri Ravinder, the Young Sahitya Academy Award winner, a Dalit poet, a PhD, a research scholar, postdoctoral fellow in university now, Central University. Pasunuri Ravinder was the convener of this Singidi when it was started. And they have brought out some books like Alugu. Alugu is, again, this is a Telangana word. Alugu means in the tank, at the end of the tank, you have steps, and when the water is full to the brim of the tank, that will overflow from these steps. So, Alugu is the title of the storybook brought out by these people. Then Dimmisa. Dimmisa means what you call after demolition, after there is rubble and everything, the uneven ground will be made strong by hitting with the Dimmisa. And this context is post Tangmand statues demolition. On Tangmand, there are statues which were demolished on the occasion of Million March. So after that, there was a big hue and cry by many people saying that this is nothing but attack on culture and should not be done. Then this Singidi has brought out a poetry book known as Dimmisa. Means we are flattening the ground, which is raised to the ground, because this is uneven construction. You have to demolish it, and you have to. That is why they called it as Vinirmana Kavitvam. That is Dimmisa. Vinirmana Kavitvam. Dimmisa by Singidi. So this is about the poetry. Important. Actually, there are hundreds of books coming in this period. We will be talking about it if I have a scope, and we may not talk about many books, but these are all the representative books of this period. And some books are coming to strengthen the understanding of Telangana history too, like Nizam Rashtra Andhra Mahasabhalu, 2 volumes. What is this Nizam Rashtra Andhra Mahasabha? Andhra Mahasabha was organized in Tenali, that is for the Telugus of Andhra state in United Madras province. And this is Nizam Rashtra Andhra Mahasabha. Started under Suravaram Pratap Reddy, Madapati Hanumantrao and all these peoples in 1930s, early 30s started. And this Andhra Mahasabha was an annual affair till it broke down, divided into one Congress stream and one CPA stream, communist stream, which is supporting Telangana struggle, and the other is supporting the National Congress. So Telangana, this one, Nizam Rashtra Andhra Mahasabhalu, all the proceedings, pamphlets, even the minutest aspect like the collections of donations, then reception committee, everything is published, and the documents were collected and put into 2 volumes to understand the history of Nizam Rashtra Andhra Mahasabha. This was edited by Kurra Jitendra Babu, another important Telangana researcher of history. He has done a lot of service to Telangana history in terms of his research. So, the other one is Deccan Archaeological Cultural Research Institute, DOCRI, which is also talking about or bringing books on history and Telangana culture. And important people associated with this like Dr. Deme Raja Reddy, B. Narsingha Rao, Kurra Jitendra Babu, Dr. Surya Kumar, Emani Shivanagi Reddy, all these people were associated with this DOCRI, Deccan Archaeological and Cultural Research Institute, and doing lot of research on history, voluminous, very, very important historical researches are done, or some books are brought, like one Rasendra Mangalam, very interesting book. Rasendra Mangalam by Siddhanagarjuna was brought out by this DOCRI. Rasendra Mangalam, Siddhanagarjuna, what is related to Telangana? Siddhanagarjuna was a resident, or his laboratory was located at Yeleshwaram in Nalgonda, which is submerged in the waters now, Nagarjuna Sagar waters. So Rasendra Mangalam by Siddhanagarjuna was brought out by DOCRI. Thus, you are showing that the glory of the ancient Telangana culture, bringing out the ancient Telangana culture to the fore through literature. That's enough. Like that, things are becoming Telangana centric, or Telangana's culture, glory, history, everything is reflected in literature. Then Varavara Rao, another great literary personality in India. I am not saying Telangana, India. A person who has dedicated his life for the revolutionary cultural movement, revolutionary poetry. All over India acknowledge about Varavara Rao's revolutionary prowess. Varavara Rao has written extensively. As a revolutionary, he is an internationalist. But as a person who is for justice, he is with Telangana too. He was with the declaration, Warangal Declaration, when AIPRF was declaring Warangal Declaration, bringing a Warangal Declaration for Telangana. And he was in all movements of Telangana, starting from 1969 movement as a young person, as a youth. He was with 1969 movement, then revolutionary movement. Again come the last phase of Telangana movement. Varavara Rao and his comrades were with the Telangana movement. Telangana Vyasalu, Telangana Bhasha. This is a book brought out by Varavara Rao, completely focusing on Telangana. So remember this, Varavara Rao's book title, Telangana Vyasalu, Telangana Bhasha. And another book, Karra Yallareddy has brought out Telangana Sarvaswam. Sarvaswam means encyclopedia. Karra Yella Reddy's book, Telangana Sarvaswam, is a book which gives you some major aspects of Telangana. That is because it is Sarvaswam. Then comes another interesting aspect. Whenever we are talking about Telangana movement is intricately what you call woven, and there is inseparable aspect, that is Hyderabad. If there is no debate over Hyderabad, if there is no contest by United Andhra Pradesh for Hyderabad, Telangana would have been a reality long back. And people are eyeing for Hyderabad. They wanted to have Hyderabad along with Andhra. So what is happening? Hyderabad is the bone of contention. And people, we have seen how Hyderabad is getting alienated or tried to, the United Andhra Pradesh or the ruling class of Andhra Pradesh tried to alienate Hyderabad from Telangana. One formulation I always repeat, if Telangana is the core of Deccan, Hyderabad is the soul of Telangana. Telangana is the core of Deccan, Hyderabad is soul of Telangana. So when we talk about Hyderabad, many people say Hyderabad is different and Telangana is different. How can you remove a city which is grown, which is born and grown on the revenues of Telangana, culture of Telangana, part of Telangana, as the capital of Telangana, and you say Hyderabad is different? This was the thing they were talking in the last phase of the movement. They want to separate Hyderabad from Telangana, and if you leave Telangana, Hyderabad, you are losing the soul. Soulless Telangana cannot survive, and Hyderabad is the soul of Telangana. So, in support of this argument, there are many activities, like some people under the what you call aegis, under the convenership of Singidi, they have brought all the cultural organizations, like I have given the list, you can just go through. Singidi, Telangana Rachayitala Vedika, Sahitya Samakhya, Julus Kavulu, Telangana Muslim Rachayitala Vedika, Minority Rachayitala Vedika, Manjira Rachayitala Sangam, Harida Rachayitala Sangam, Mukta, Telangana Women's Collective. All these people organized one day, Hyderabad Madira, Telangana Atmara. Hyderabad is ours, that is Telangana's soul. And this day in 2012, they have organized as a poetry and singers session, poetry and songs. You will be singing songs on Hyderabad, you will be reciting poetry on Hyderabad. The title itself is so beautiful, Hyderabad Madira, Telangana Atmara. This is the form they have adopted. So this is Kavi Sammelanam, Kavi Gayaka Sammelanam. If we have to say in Urdu, Mushaira, we call it as Mushaira. If poets or Shair, means the poets or singers are joining, that is known as Mushaira. Mushaira is a word which we should remember, because Mushaira is nothing but Kavi Gayaka Sammelanam in Telugu. We had a great tradition of Mushaira in Hyderabad, because Urdu, our Dakhani, was expressed by many poets. That cultural tradition was there. Unfortunately, post 1975 and come globalization. One is colonization of Telangana. Second is globalization. Both things have spoiled the entire Telangana culture, or ruined, or tried to ruin, and to some extent they became successful. So, Mushaira culture was there in Hyderabad. Nowadays you don't see, you will see Mushairas only in some parts of Old City or somewhere else. Because of globalization, even in the community of Urdu speaking, it is getting decreased. But still, Telangana was composite. Many people, those who are not Muslims, also write poetry in Urdu. Great people like Samala Sadashiva, Dasharathi, Narayan Reddy, everyone is well versed in Urdu too. They are great Telugu poets and Urdu poets. So this, our compositeness shouldn't forget. So this is about the. Apart from that, there are some books like Salam Hyderabad. It's a novel written by Paravastu Lokeshwar. Remember this title. This was asked in one of the TSPSC examination. Then Ye Shehar Hamara, brought out by a group of people like Sajaya, Professor Rama Melkote. All these people have brought a booklet, that is Ye Shehar Hamara. This booklet has given all the points, point-wise logic, why you shouldn't say Hyderabad is ours. Hyderabad is Telangana's. This is what the booklet, that is Ye Shehar Hamara. Then other literature books like Sunkara Ramesh, has brought out books, 5 Telangana Kavita, titled Telangana Kavita. He brought 5 books, poetry. Jayashikaram is the booklet on Jayashankar Sir by Murali Krishna. Then B.S. Ramulu has brought out Chupu. B.S. Ramulu has written many books. One among them, that is Chupu. Pokkili Vakilla Pulakarinta by Annavaram Devendra. Pokkili Vakilla Pulakarinta. Very beautiful, very, very literary title. Pokkili Vakilla Pulakarinta by Annavaram Devendra. చెట్టును దాటుకుంటూ పాతాళ గరిగే. చెట్టును దాటుకుంటూ is one book. పాతాళ గరిగే is other book by జూకంటి జగన్నాథం. పాతాళ గరిగే is a symbol of a rural society. When the bucket which fetches water from the well, the thread cuts, the rope cuts off and falls, you will put పాతాళ గరిగే, a metal instrument, means it will be having all what you call anchor like things, and that will be put in the well, and you will you will take out the bucket. That is Patala Garige. Even Patala Garige was asked in one of the TSPS examination. Telangana words you should remember. Understanding Telangana culture, locating ourselves in Telangana culture is the essence of Telangana formation paper. So these are the titles. Chettunu Datukuntu, Patala Garige by Jukanti Jagannatham. These are all the titles. Then talking about the rewriting of history. This is another important aspect. Why we should rewrite history? This is part of the culture. History is part of culture. You cannot take out from this. Hegemony comes out of cultural supremacy. The people who wants to suppress another region will try to project themselves as they are superior to the suppressed. So Andhra ruling class tried to project themselves as superior to Telangana in terms of history also. They have done lots of damage to the history of Andhras or Telugus. We can see Shatavahana's first capital is Kotalingala. They are not ready to acknowledge even till date. They say, they write in the books, but they will give other places also, say that these are all the other theories. When it comes to Amaravati, everything is completely Amaravati. Buddha comes to Amaravati, which is ahistoric. Buddha never crossed India and came to Amaravati. And they claim that Amaravati was visited by Buddha. Take myths as history, but history is completely distorted. This is what Andhra ruling class has done every time. So starting from Shatavahana phase till the last phase, we have seen a lot of distortions. And two people I am talking today. One is B.N. Shastri, who has done a lot of service to the history in general, Telangana history in particular. B.N. Shastri, a great researcher, he has solved many inscriptions, edited many inscriptions, and written the history of Andhras. Not only Telangana, he has written the history of Renati Chola or many other dynasties which are from Rayalaseema or Andhra too. Vengi Chalukyans is writing extensively. 2 volumes of Andhra history he has written. And he has written many things which are filling the gaps of Telangana, like the first capital of Vishnukundis. Everyone was talking about Vinukonda as the capital in Guntur district. He said, no, it is Tummalagudem in Nalgonda. That is today Indrapala Nagaram. And the Tummalagudem copper plates he has edited and shown as the evidence. Still, people are not ready to accept this. Some Andhra historians. They haven't changed in the history textbooks. That is a tragedy. And B.N. Shastri is filling the gaps, like history of Vakataka he is talking about. We should talk about history of Vakataka to show the continuity of Telangana history. Otherwise, after Shatavahanas, till Kakatiya comes or Vishnukundis comes, even Vishnukundi also minor one, and they are not talking about Vishnukundi. Every time Andhra historians took Vishnukundis to Dharanikota or Bejawada, that is Indrakiladri or Lenduluru, but they did not talk much about Telangana. So, rewriting of history done by B.N. Shastri has filled the gaps. Vakataka history has to be studied because after Shatavahanas, Vakatakas were the people who were ruling Telangana, and mainly North Telangana part and some part of South Telangana. This is what B.N. Shastri has filled the gap in rewriting of Telangana history. Then Dr. D. Raja Reddy, his service to numismatics is immense. Dr. Raja Reddy, a numismatist, a doctor by profession, a professional doctor means is a neurologist by profession and numismatist by his passion. and he is world-renowned numismatist today. And Dr. D. Rajareddy's discussion or understanding about the Kotalingala coins has confirmed that Kotalingala was the first capital of Shatavahanas. Thus, entire Shatavahana history is rewritten. So, these two people and some more people are there who are rewriting the Telangana history continuously. So, rewriting of Telangana history is a part of rewriting Telangana's culture, Telangana's glory. Next, Telangana History Society is formed in 2007, and in 2006 the preparation started. People met in 2006 and almost 60 to 62 people were members, and they interacted continuously, and people like Tadakamala Vivek, presently the member of TSPSC, N. Venugopal, editor of Veekshanam, a literary personality, revolutionary poetry and Telangana poetry. He is a critic, regular columnist, and a journalist, senior journalist. Sangishetty Srinivas, a researcher, serious researcher who has brought many aspects which are ignored in Telangana history. Sangishetty Srinivas, Mariganti Raghavachari, then Sridhar Deshpande, all these people were there in Telangana History Society. This Telangana History Society has brought out booklets. They have published a book titled 1969 Udyama Charitrika Patralu. 1969 documents were brought together and published in 3 volumes. First 2 volumes contain the documents, third volume contained the photographs. Then Telangana Charitra Punar Nirmanam, 17 September Bhinna Drukkonalu. 17 September people describe it differently. So this is the one. Then Sangishetty Srinivas researches on Bhagyareddy Varma, Bandaru Achamamba, and Telangana Patrikala Charitra, like that is Shabnavisu. All these things are part of rewriting of Telangana history. And the last part we can talk about songs which aroused the masses. Gaddar's Amma Telangana already we have discussed. Then the other one, Podustunna Poddumida, which is popular, Podustunna Poddumida, Nadustunna Kalama, that is Jaibolo Telangana song. Then Andasri's Jaya Jaya He Telangana, which is the state song now. And Mayamai Potunadamma, already we have discussed about this song. Then Jaibolo Telangana, Bomma Chekkite Bomma, all these songs are very important. Andasri. Then Nandini Siddhareddy's Nageti Salallo Na Telangana, Goreti Venkanna's Palle Kaniru Pedutundo, Iddaram Vidipote Bhumi Badalautada. All these songs aroused the, it is not just sentiment, it is the consciousness of the masses. Whenever these songs come, people will rise and dance and give slogans. So, apart from that, there are some other beautiful, very great songs which were produced in the last phase of Telangana movement. Veerulara Vandanam, Daruvellanna, and Mittapalli Srinivas, Rati Bommallona, which will bring tears when you are listening to this song. And Mitra, a person in revolutionary movement, that is CPML Janashakti, he has written Adudam Dappula Daruveyara, then Palle Palleku Pallerlu Moliche, Palamurulona, Na Telanganalona. That is the tragedy of Telangana's agriculture. He is expressing in this. Chinuku Chinuku Kurisina Nela, another song. And Pasunuri Ravindar's Jaikottu Telangana. And another one, very popular one, Abhinaya Srinivas song, Usmania Campus Lo Udayinchina Kiranama. All these songs were the songs which were frequently sung and which is of a great inspiration for the entire movement. Then comes Telangana Dhumdam. Telangana Dhumdam is a cultural form started by Rasamai Balkishan, and Rasamai Balkishan got inspiration from Antudupulu Nagaraju's Telangana Jatara. Telangana Jatara was not having any political content. It's the conglomeration or a meeting of all the folk forms of Telangana. And once Rasamai Balkishan saw that initiated, that got that idea that we should have a group which will have all the folk forms plus Telangana culture, Telangana demand. So thus Dhumdam was organized. The first Dhumdam, Telangana Dhumdam, was organized on 30th September at Kamareddy. This is a question frequently asked, remember. And they organized many programs. And Telangana Dhumdam is part of a meeting. And this is nothing but a collective creation. Nirnala Kishore, Shanti Kavita, and many people are there in this Telangana Dhumdam who were actively participating, and they were spending time, spending their creativity. They were into the cultural movement in the entire last phase. Wherever there is a meeting, they were going. Wherever there is an agitation, they were there, inspiring the masses. So Telangana Dhumdam has a great role in the last phase. And apart from that, we will be talking about some other organizations which are already existing. These organizations are revolutionary cultural organizations. But in the last phase of Telangana movement, they have played their role well. They have contributed to a larger extent whenever they could do. Because along with revolutionary agenda, they are taking up Telangana agenda. Like Arunodaya Sanskritika Samakhya Vimalakka and her troupe, that is Arunodaya Sanskritika Samakhya. Then Praja Kala Mandali, people like Koti, Prabhakar, John. Prabhakar is no more, he was killed in an encounter recently. Then cultural troupe of CPIML, New Democracy. CPIML New Democracy, part of JAC. They were active in the entire process, entire period in the last phase. And they have organized cultural movement very well. Every moment we used to see 20 or 30 people with that cultural, that red and that strip, that waistband and red rumal in their hands, coming and singing and giving the ideological and inspirational point or inspirational aspect to the meeting. So all these things we are talking are the cultural forms which are performing or writing. Apart from this, there is one more form which we have to talk, not in detail, but some things are there which we have to talk. Cinema is part of our culture. Cinema is a very important part of culture. But unfortunately, we don't have Telangana's representation in cinema, Telugu cinema. Telugu cinema is completely dominated by particular region and particular caste because of the coastal surplus in agriculture going into film industry and industry as been formulated by many political scientists. It is completely one-sided affair. But Telugu film industry is not including Telangana, but still we have some great things to talk about. Paidi Jayaraj, who ruled Bollywood as a superstar in the earlier periods, who was awarded Dada Saheb Phalke Award in 1980 for his contribution to Indian cinema. He was a superstar in Hindi. Paidi Jayaraj was from Karimnagar, relative of Sarojini Naidu. So Paidi Jayaraj's legacy is there. We have then directors, Shyam Benegal, an alumni of Usmania University, Nizam College, a great director of our times. He is not just an Indian director, he is one of the greatest directors of the world. Like Satyajit Ray, Shyam Benegal, Mrunal Sen, Gautam Ghosh, Ritik Ghatak, all these are greatest directors of the world from our India. So Shyam Benegal is one among them. Shyam Benegal has produced, directed beautiful films which are completely concerned with the society. In some of the films you can see Telangana society also. Mandi was shot exclusively in Hyderabad sets, and Shyam Benegal should be remembered for his greatness as a Hyderabadi and a doyen of Indian cinema, one of the doyens of Indian cinema. Then B. Narsingh Rao, a product of revolutionary cultural movement. He started Art Lovers, which later transformed into Jananatya Mandali. He was with the Naxalbari movement, then later became part of his own cultural activism and not part of Jananatya Mandali in the latter period. But B. Narsingh Rao has produced Mabhumi. Producing Mabhumi is one of the greatest contribution to Telangana history, I say. Forget about directing and all those things in the next phase. Producing itself is a great thing because Mabhumi is a cult film for us. Mabhumi is showing the feudalism in Telangana under Nizams. So, Mabhumi, directed by Gautam Ghosh, one of the finest film. Then, later he has produced and directed some of the films, we'll be talking about him. Then Shankar, Jai Bolo Telangana, representative of the last phase. From actors, you have Kanta Rao, Prabhakar Reddy. Kanta Rao a famous hero, he is just equal to N.T. Ramarao in Janapada films or that genre. Katti Kantarao, we used to say. So, Prabhakar Reddy, a famous villain, he is from Nalgonda. So, only two people are there from Telangana. And later, completely the film industry is dominated by Andhras, and people like Rafi and Rosham Balu. Rafi, remember these two names. They are trying to make films, but not getting the enough patronage, enough support from the society. That is why still they are struggling. This is the scenario in cinema. So before concluding, let's have a overlook of some of the films like Vokavuri Katha. Vokavuri Katha was directed by Mrunal Sen, completely in the background of Telangana. Ibrahimpatnam surroundings they have shot. It won many international awards. Then Mabhumi, already I discussed. Dasi, about the Adapapalu, exploited women of Telangana Gadis. Then Matti Manshulu, another film by Narsinga Rao. Komaram Bhim, the hero of tribals, that is Gonds. Komaram Bhim, directed by Alani Sridhar. Bhopal played the role of Komaram Bhim. Jebolo Telangana, directed by N. Shankar, representing the last phase of movement. Veera Telangana, directed and acted by R. Narayanamurthy, another great friend of Telangana. So all these things are the cultural aspects of Telangana. To conclude, I say, because we have already discussed many aspects, conceptual aspects and ideological aspects, and examples too, need not sum up like that, because already the culture, the names already gave us the conclusion to understand Telangana. So Telangana is always a cultural identity. It is not just a geographical identity. Telangana is a cultural identity. So how can we forget? How can we say that there is no cultural movement? So cultural movement of Telangana has created a great impact on the society, and this has resulted in arousing the masses into struggles, and finally we could achieve Telangana because of the cultural movement also. That is the greatness of the cultural movement in Telangana.